Thank you for auditing the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who once again will be reviewing an album by King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. This time it's Omnium Graphnium. I'm going to try to name it without looking at my notes. Omnium Gatherum. I think that's it. It's the OG album. And, I love King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. I didn't know that I would. When I started this channel, I started it in 2018. And as I say quite often, I didn't pay attention to any music between 2002 and 2018. So when they started, I heard their name. I thought it was a funny name. I still loved music. I just didn't care about new music. But I never looked into it because it's just a stupid name. It's just a stupid, oh, is it psychedelic? Oh, is it so trippy? So I just ignored it. And then when I started my channel, probably the most requested bands in those early days was King Lizard and the Gizzard Wizard, right? And so I kept on getting these comments, but I try to look forward. That's how I try to do things on this channel. I try not to go back into the back catalogs of artists, not because it's not worth it, but because I simply don't have the time. I reviewed Father John Misty last week. I loved it. I can't wait to listen to the rest of his music. But when am I going to do that when I have to listen to Pusha T and Fontaine's DC and King Gizzard and maybe even the Porn Crumpets, right? So that's why I particularly appreciate King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, because I kept, when I reviewed KG, which was their first album I'd ever heard, KG LW 3000, 3001, I was told, you have to understand something, Sky. They change their style all the time, and this is how they sound now, but in the past they've sounded like death metal, and they've sounded like this, and they've sounded like that. And I believed everybody, but I wasn't going to go backwards and hear it. So fortunately I have this album. Omnimums, Gatheriums, and what is it? It's everything. It's a whole bunch of different styles, a whole bunch of different genres, all kind of matched together. So that diversity of their sound, which I didn't get from listening to KGLW 3000, all of which was fairly similar in terms of its microtonal, jammy awesomeness. This is a much more expanded palette, with hip-hop of sorts, and heavy metal, death metal, I don't know what kind of metal we want to call it, but heavy metal all mixed in with a lot of soul as well. And here's the thing about this album. I could have absolutely hated this album. I want 3000. Butterfly 3000, to me, you see it in the background, it's all blurry with my new special phone effects, but you can tell that's Butterfly 3000. That's what I want. I want Butterfly 6000 and Butterfly 9000. That album, to me, is just a perfect, awesome rock album. I couldn't possibly like it more. So this album being different, and especially with this album being so clever with its different takes, part of me got real negative when I listened to this the first time. Part of me was getting all criticky and snarky. Thinking things like, I get the sense that this album was a final assignment for a master's program in performing arts, and they were tasked with having to come up with one heavy metal song, one soul song, and one rap song, and this is what they did. Seriously, that kind of horse hockey is what I thought in the beginning. But why didn't I give in to that thought? Why didn't I just listen to it, say I don't like it, and not review it? Well, it's what a great band can do. And it's one of the rarest resources, especially now, in music. That is the goodwill of the audience. That's what they have. That's what bands need. Part of Kanye's greatness, part of Radiohead's greatness, is that they have so much goodwill with their fans that they'll make you wait, they'll switch everything up, and you'll just go, oh, you guys... what are you going to do now? And that's really what I get from this, where I don't get angry. I don't actually dislike it. I came to like it. I could listen to it several times, even though this album is so damn long. Hey, King Gizzard, some of us professors over here have finals to write, papers to grade. But this whole album is really enjoyable all the way through. Even though it's very diverse in its style, it's actually fairly cohesive in its feeling and its production. The whole thing has what I call a sort of encrusted production style, where it feels like there's sort of a layer of Gizzard on everything. I realized the band that they remind me of the most. So I'll let you think. Who am I going to compare them to? Maybe you're thinking Psychedelic Porn Crumpets or Tame Impala because they're Australian rock bands. Maybe you'll think like Fish or something annoying like some jam band like that. They remind me most of Weezer. Ooh, you didn't like that. I'm sorry. It's okay. Weezer's great. That's why I'm wearing this teal sweater in honor of the Teal album. Not really. But what I mean is that Weezer has that ability to go from genre to genre to where you're never quite sure what the truth is about Weezer's musical production. Like, what does Rivers Cuomo actually feel and actually want? That is the sense that I get. Now, I don't know if King Gizzard is primarily Stu. I want to say Stu McKenzie. I believe that's the name I saw in the credits a bunch of times. I don't know if there is a King Gizzard. I get the sense they're a very collective band. I can't quite figure out what their actual thing is. Yet, everything they make, much like Weezer, everything they make is very good. So, I don't know how long this review is, right? I just have notes. I don't have a script. I don't edit. So, this is a mystery to me, and you know how long it is. I can tell you, I could do, what's that guy's name? There's a guy who does like the 10-second reviews. I like watching his stuff. I could do one of those for these albums that I've reviewed of King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. And for this album, Omnium Gatherum, this is my 2-word review. Yeah, man! That's gendered. Oh yeah! That's Kool-Aid. We'll stick with oh yeah. Oh yeah! Like that's my feeling. This album just gives me that oh yeah. KGLW, a little more thinky. I'd maybe give it a ooh. That's how I would review K. And then, of course, 3000 is a 1-word review. Whoo! One thing that this album really proves to me, because in general, I don't like cuteness in music. Like switching genres and being like, did you know I could play heavy metal and I can rap? Like, god damn it, that stuff bothers me. But not only do they have goodwill, but they have virtuosity. They have a level of talent at their instruments, which does so much work, which really helps me to overlook whatever small, cynical, mean little pepper shaker feelings I have inside me. In the end, I just love the variety. Why not rap? Why not metal? It's a lot of quantity, but it's always quality, which is, I guess that's the reward of being a gizzhead. I don't know what you call yourself if you're a Gizzard fan. I'll call myself a gizzhead. Big old gizzhead. When you're a gizzhead, you get so much quantity. But as far as I can tell, at least in all the projects I've listened to, I haven't heard even a little dip in their quality. I didn't do hardly any research on this. I mostly just listened to the music. I did stumble across a quote from one of the members of the band saying that they are entering their jam phase, which is hilarious to me because they're a very jammy band to start off with. But it makes sense, and this is more jammy than those other albums that I've heard. It's a little bit less based on technical proficiency, more on the grooves they're able to create. Maybe it's because they get to be back together again. Maybe it's sort of a post-COVID explosion. I think Omnium Gatherum is supposed to be like we're all together, like we're all gathered together. At least that's how it sounds to me. So I'm really here for this. I mean, I'm here for this. Jesus, I should have a script. I'm talking like a millennial, like a Zoomer. I'm totally here for it, fam. I'm vibing with this. I am here for it. This is it, Chief. This jam phase, because that's the best. The thing that I feel is most lost with rock and roll declining in prominence is the feeling of seeing people playing together at such a high level. Like that's the thing that Radiohead can give you that Kanye just can't. You just can't. Like the image of 5 people, 6 people, 8 people, 3 people, however many, playing together who know each other so well that like a borderline like sexual, soulistic like union of bodies, and it's just beautiful. And you hear that on this album all the way through. Lyrically, well, we don't care about the lyrics, right? I mean, they're a jam band, and you can't be an instrumental jam band, okay? You just can't. Just no one wants that. Everyone wants words. It's been the great problem of virtuoso musicians and jam bands for time immemorial, right? The Grateful Dead had to get Robert Hunter to write their lyrics. I think maybe Phish even has someone writing their lyrics. I don't know. My last Phish show was in 1993. True story. But boy, their lyrics. So they have sort of two sides of lyrics. One is what I call the Boris the Spider style lyrics. The Who have a great album. I would have showed it right here as a prop, but I think it's in my car. Where they let the bass player, John Entwistle, like sing a song, and it's called Boris the Spider. And it's just an example of this kind of silly 60s songwriting that's just kind of dumb and goofy, but the song is a good song. And they kind of go there on this album, but mainly it's an environmental album. Again, I am reminded of the Australian band from the 90s, Midnight Oil. Apparently, the lead singer of Midnight Oil is now a politician. I hated them. Maybe they're good, but they were so big, and I hated environmental rock. I found it really preachy. I found it really annoying. I found it really hypocritical. I saw Midnight Oil play at a Earth Day show in Foxborough, Massachusetts. And Midnight Oil was so bad, and the whole show was so bad. Steve Miller, everyone was so bad, that I didn't even realize that I saw the Kinks. Like one of my favorite bands played, but it was so cold and rainy and terrible, and I just had to sit up there while some bald dude from Australia was lecturing me about the ozone layer. So I have a sort of weird bias. It could just be growing up in the 90s, I don't know, where I don't like lyrics about the environment. But hey, Sky, what are you going to do, pal? Like, what's your problems? Hey, Professor, I have a question. Yes, you. What's your problem, bud? You know? What do I want? Drugs? No, I don't like songs about drugs. I mean, it sucks because Catching Smoke is one of my favorite songs of the last, 10 years. It's all about just buying drugs. Whatever, it's fine. I don't want songs about sex, you know? I don't want songs about money, so why not about the environment? And let's not forget, they're from a country which has been on fire for much of the last decade. I got my doctorate in Santa Barbara, and I lived a lot in California. I was in Yellowstone in 2018 when we had to evacuate our hotel because the fire was coming up over the ridge. So I know what it's like to live in a place that's on fire, and it does motivate you to think more about global warming and about the environment. So why not? That'll be my last words of any kind of down vote on the environmental talk. For the rest of this, why not? It's the most pressing issue. It's the most pressing, for many people, it is the most pressing issue that is confronting us right now. I'm not sure if it is or isn't, but for many it is. So let's get to the album. I try to have one song that's an example song, which is hard when an album is this diverse. But fortunately, they made it easy with the first song, The Dripping Tap. I'm going to include a link to it up there. Click on it, go listen to it, come back. It's going to take you a while. It's going to take you about 18 minutes to listen to this whole song. There is a secret thing about jammy songs. 17 minutes is the perfect length for a jammy song. My band and I, we had this one song that we played. It was a 17-minute song about the movie Hoffa by Danny DeVito. And it always ended up, when we played it well, 17 minutes. Change Your Mind by Neil Young, one of the best songs of the 90s, 17 minutes. So it's just the right amount of time to really have an extended jam with lots of different motions and all that, while still also having a song there. This song is so exemplary because it starts off with like a vinyl crackle, which is sort of that encrusted feeling that I feel on this album quite a bit. And then a whole bunch of count in and are you ready? And you get the sense the band's getting ready to play. And then the vocals start and they sound like they're in the other room, and they're kind of soulful and sweet with amazing guitar all the way through, really good bass work. The lyrics are exemplary of this ham-fisted environmentalism. Damn it, that sounded negative. I said I wouldn't be negative anymore about the environmentalism, but I was. The lyrics are overtly environmentalistic. The dripping tap won't be turned off by the suits in charge of the world, and our futures are hanging on by a thread, with our heads in the sand. We're ostriches, man. Okay. I can't stop throwing shade at these lyrics. I tried really not hard. But the way that it's sung, it doesn't matter because I just said it very clearly, but it's kind of underwater. Like the vocals sound like they're in a different room. It's very well produced. It's got that great encrusted feeling. And it doesn't really matter. Like what matters is the central image of a dripping tap does work really well for an environmental song. That is not overstated. That is not ham-fisted. Maybe saying the suits in charge won't turn it off. That's fine. And then there's a crash. Now, at this point on my notes, things just get crazy. This is where I was on the elliptical and I was working out and I was trying to write down all the different parts that happened to this. And I'm only trying to do this to show you the movement of this jam. It's not just that it's a long jam that does one thing. It's a long jam that does like 20 different things. There's always like little tiny melodies that are packed in that come out of other places, different instrumentation. There's a crash and then a jam starts off. Like a full 60s style jam with two guitars going all over the place, sometimes together, sometimes not. When they come together, you feel good. When they go apart, you feel energized. A harmonica solo, we get at least one of those King Gizzard whoos. The words eventually come back, and then they go into more jam. Absolute insanity. The guitars are Bill and Ted's guitars. You know Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure? That kind of guitar going on, almost like a wall of sound of rock, even like a wah-wah pedals going nuts, and then they repeat that first verse again. The dripping tap won't be turned off by the suits in charge or their heads in the sand, but this time it's in a rock version, and then they bring the guitar riff back again. They just keep going all over the place. Here they're doing like this different guitar riff where it's like these three notes that then slightly modulate. And this is the thing, like when you listen to jam bands and when you hear them playing together, it's like that stupid thing, like I wish I loved anything as much as X loves Y. I wish I loved anything as much as kids love bubbles. I think that was in some Judd Apatow movie. Like I wish I loved anything as much as King Gizzard loves playing together, because you can really hear it here together. And there's so many interesting moments of jamming. You see? Well, you can't see because of my stupid focus thing. Who cares? Unexpected moments of cohesion between the guitars all the way through. The drummer is just working his ass off. These really consistent chugging drums. Sort of like a underneath. Reminds me a little bit of the German band Can. Even dynamics in the middle of all this, where it'll get quiet and the harmonica will come in, and then the rhythms at a certain point, the guitar starts doing kind of like a chugging rhythm, which is a little bit like the heavy metal style, like playing a low note on a guitar, like one low note, and it's like super syncopated. And then like they start playing like the syncopated arpeggio line, and then they start singing the same line over and over again. Drip, drip from the tap, don't slip. The clearest words in the whole song, and they repeat it like 100 times. Why are they repeating it 100 times? Because if everything works out and I get to ever see this goddamn band in concert, and I really want to see them in concert, my life's a little bit too crazy. I don't have the freedom that I had when I got to see Fish in 1993. Just like the audience participation is so clear for this, where people just say drip, drip from the tap, don't slip, and repeat it along. And then there's clapping over and over again. The guitar gets clean, and then the guitars are in complete harmony. And then there's a gong. Gongs are a very underused instrument. Back in the 70s, it was a sign of excess if a drummer had a gong, because they'd only ever use it once. Like John Bonham would get up there before, I don't know, the Lemon song. And then all of a sudden they could justify bringing a gong. King Gizzard uses the gong well. Words and just all over. And there's a blistering distortion bit with more Bill and Ted stuff going on here. Finally, the drums are doing something else with some smashing cymbals. And it just seems to never end. It just keeps going. And I can confidently say that this song is one of the best albums of the year. I'm not sure if this album is going to be one of the best albums of the year, but this song is an album. It goes everywhere. It has so much to it. I was listening to it at the gym while working out. And it's funny because there's a guy I call Short Shorts guy. He works out like a little bit ahead of me, and I see him a fair amount. And he's just in really good shape, and he wears these really short shorts. And he, like when you go to the gym, like if you're surrounded by people who are in worse shape than you kind of feel like the cool guy and you don't push yourself too hard. But I see this guy. So I've got this music going. And like I am just working so hard because I'm like totally into the music. But then I'm also trying to have my little sound competition with Short Shorts guy. I could turn back time here. I'm just going and going. And by the end of the song, I felt like, speaking of a 17-minute jam song, In The Simpsons, one of the best episodes, Bart sells his soul. He convinces the church organist to play the song Inagata da Vida in full by Iron Butterfly. And at the end of it, after playing it for 17 minutes, she just goes, and she puts her head on the keyboard and just blares it because she's so tired. That's how I felt listening to this song. That's how I feel reviewing this song. God damn, I gotta calm down. Oh yeah, right? Do you hear that oh yeah of this? I mean, so much. My hair's out of place. The sun is setting and the light's getting even weirder. It's going to get weirder, folks. I'm going to go through the rest of the album a lot quicker. Magenta Mountain, kind of back to the 3000 style, a little microtonal. It seems like the songs are about smog. That's fine. Sweet kind of, Asian sounding keyboards. Again, I guess it's just that microtonal thing. Cool shuffled beat here. It's kind of harpsichord as well. A really great inspirational break. There's one moment here. This is my public service for King Gizzard superfans, for bigger giz heads than myself. There's a small drum fill in this that's like a half measure drum fill that's just toms. And it's a little detail, but oh, it's great. And then at a certain point, an 80s style sequenced keyboard comes in with one note. Whoa, 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 whoa. Super awesome. And I just, this could be like a great hip-hop sample. Then it leads into Kepler 22B. At this point, I wondered if this was not all too much. There's a lot going on here. This is the third song. I've already passed out after the first song. But this is a great funk groove, that encrusted sound. When you listen to it, you'll know what I mean by encrusted sound. Everything sounds encrusted. The voice sounds like it's buried in peanut butter. Yeah. The drummer is really featured on here, which is nice. Like there's almost a trombone solo, almost a piano solo, and then a real kind of nice bass line. And then it's kind of an interesting sort of... the lyrics are all about what if somebody on Kepler 22b, which is a planet far away, was looking at me with a telescope, man. Whoa. What if we're looking at people who are looking at us? Ah. Anyways. And then that leads into Gaia. Oh my God. How do I even start? I don't know. Is it it sort of sounds like Black Sabbath and Tool at the same time? I don't know how they managed to do that. Kind of a Sabbath guitar line to start, sort of standard heavy metal drum, low tom and snare in kind of detuned bass, that kind of Tool feeling. Just this really sick, maybe the best groove on the entire album is this kind of black metalish, I don't know if it's black metal, some kind of heavy metal, Tool metal, prog metal. I don't care. You tell me in the comments, you smash the like bucket, you subscribe, and you tell me in the comments what kind of heavy metal is Gaia supposed to be, because I always say it wrong, okay? So this baby metal that they're playing here, it's all ride cymbals and guitars, and it's so cool. It just sounds so great. And then he actually sings, like this, like a heavy metal singer with kind of a growl. And I wonder, when you see this in concert, do you, A, dance like you were dancing to the previous song? B, headbang unironically? Or C, headbang ironically? That's that Weezer territory that I'm talking about. What is the real thing there? I do like that for a environmental song, the idea of personifying Gaia, the earth goddess, as some kind of avenging heavy metal murderer, I like. This, I like. I like it quite a bit. The breakdown is super badass and fun, and there's a killer guitar solo. Ambergris is a gentle 70s soul song. After that metal, more encrusted sounds, almost like an Al Green style organ. All these different kind of synthesizers, like start and stop. It's gentle, seems to be more about the environment. And then there's a weird industrial punk middle part, and then an old organ solo, and then a guitar solo. I'm telling you, it's very exhausting trying to catalog all the things that are happening in this album because there's so much happening. So I'm not going to get everything. But I'm trying to give you enough to give you the sense of the fullness of this. Because jamming can sometimes not be full. Sometimes jamming is wanking, just like a bunch of... when my band would play our songs for 17 minutes, sometimes it was a little bit more for us than it was for our imagined audience. And then we get to Sadie Sorcerers. This is where they were the closest to losing me. A really nice beat, nice low bass, like a weird sort of voice sample. But then they start rapping. And I don't know. My son was asking me, is there rap in Australia? And I said, well, yes, there's Genesis Owusu. But I don't know if there's anything more. So please tell me. I assume I have some Aussies, in which case, good day. Is there Aboriginal hip-hop in Australia? I imagine that there is. Is there like a whole scene? I don't know. But this, okay. So do I want rock stars doing rap songs just for fun? Not really. But also, this is nice. And it sounds a lot like the Beastie Boys, and there is a Beastie Boys void right now. Like the Beastie Boys existed, and they figured out how to make a cross between rock and roll and hip-hop that really worked because they were real practitioners of hip-hop. So they weren't like rockers trying to do hip-hop. They were hip-hoppers trying to do like rock and funk, and they played their own instruments and all that. And this, even with a harpsichord, it really sounds a lot like So What You Want. And just this undeniable groove. It's just so funky. It's funkier than anything that the Beastie Boys could ever pull off. It's really good. Evilest Man, we're hitting kind of a rough spot on the album. I do like this kind of octaves of an arpeggiator. Gets a little bit more complicated in the fuzz guitar. But the verse kind of reminds me like Hall & Oates. And then all the lyrics is like, you will become what you read. I think they even call out Rupert Murdoch by name. I should have looked that up in Genius. But you can tell me, do they not say Murdoch? Is this like a song about Rupert Murdoch being the evilest man? He's in the running, so, I'm trying to think of people who are more overtly evil than Rupert Murdoch. I'm sure they exist. But then guess what? I'm all down on this song. And then, well, you can't read it because of the stupid effects. But what it says is, goddamn, I love this. I love this instrumental break because it does this little thing where you're listening to headphones and you're looking at the guy in the short shorts and you're like, God damn, that guy's just beautiful legs. I gotta keep working. I'm sitting there, and on the left side, you hear this hi-hat opening, and then you hear a drum fill, and then that hi-hat all of a sudden is on the right side, and there's this little shuffle going on. There's all these different instruments, and you're like, where's the hi-hat now? Is it in the left? Is it in the right? It's great. And then every once in a while, there's this very clear synthesizer line playing this melody. So who cares if the lyrics aren't particularly great? Turns out it's a great song. Then we get to the most Boris of all spiders, the Garden Goblin. It starts off with some Casio sounds, intentional kind of simple, like keyboard lines, very goofy, kind of sweet, but why not? Blame It on the Weather. Sounds a little bit more like Butterfly 3000 again. Great guitar solo, more environmental stuff. Leading into Persistence, which is my least favorite song on the album, and it's not even close. I do not like the song Persistence. It seems like it's like a sexy time song. I don't know, like I have persistence like a Ford Piston. Ew, gross. I don't know. The drums are fine. But when an album is an hour and 20 minutes long, you're going to have at least one skip. So please tell me why I'm wrong, fellow Giz heads. Next song is Grim Reaper, back to the sort of Beastie Boys style. Okay, so on one of my 4 channels, one of the channels I don't promote here, I had this theory about Rey's theme from Episode 7 in Star Wars, that it was based on Beastie Boys. That the flute theme that was played was intentionally echoing one of the biggest Beastie Boys songs that was ever made, right? So that was my theme. That was my theory, because J.J. Abrams named one of the characters after the Beastie Boys. He loves the Beastie Boys. And if you put together the Beastie Boys song with, and then you play the John Williams theme for Ray. I think they're very close. Which is all to say that in this song, they start talking about a scavenger, and Ray is a scavenger, and there's a flute, and it sounds like the Beastie Boys again. This is another one of those there's no way these things are connected things, but it's weird because you don't think about the word scavenger very often, and when I do, I think about Ray, and I think about Ray, I think about the Beastie Boys, and I think about the flutes, and then that's what we have here. I like this theme. I like the anger of the environmentalism of this song, of this album, this sort of faux violence, sort of eco-terrorism music, the idea of like the Grim Reaper coming to get us. I like it. I really especially like the way the gong is used several times in this sort of rat-a-tat snare, a very solid groove. I was very ready to hate all the rap stuff on this album, but I actually really like it. Next up is So Presumptuous, another song which I don't particularly like. It's solid, but I don't know, just using the word presumptuous is just a little too preachy. I'm just not a fan of it. At times it reminds me of Santana, at times it reminds me of Steely Dan. It's okay, but I'd probably skip this one too. Predator X is the next metal song. Predator X, very enjoyable, very cool. It's a little bit outshone by the previous metal song just because the other one it has such a better groove. But still, it's a good headbanger song, and especially the way it goes right into Red Smoke, this kind of nice, melismatic, odd rhythm, sort of high singing, sweet voice is quite nice. My wife was quite upset about Red Smoke, the how much they ripped off Riders of the Storm, that keyboard line. It is very strongly ripped off. I will say that my wife listened to this album with me a couple times, and she disliked it the first time because she heard Predator X, and then I played it, the next day, and she's like, "Oh, I like this," and it's the same band, but that's how varied their style is. The sun is almost setting, but fortunately, I'm almost done. This is my merch. It'll never be in focus, but this is my merch. You can buy my merch if you want. It's a cool mug, isn't it? Oh, crap. Now the heating is going on. Please tell me in the comments, too, if that's super distracting, that noise. We have 2 more songs left, and actually 1 more song. There are really 2 that go together. This is definitely the most interesting lyrical depiction that they're giving. This song, Candles, is almost a breezy island-like song. But just this word candles, the way it's repeated over and over again, it's really enjoyable. Again, I can't wait to be in concert and sing along with the dripping tap and all that and sing along with candles. And I like these lyrics. The little man is too hot to handle. Set the funeral on fire with the candles. My little heart is cold as a morgue. Let the weight of it drop like an iceberg. Doesn't rhyme. Maybe if I say it with an Australian accent. Oh, okay. My little heart is cold as a morgue, let the weight of it drop off like an iceberg. That's pretty good. It's the best Australian accent I've ever done, which tells you how bad my Australian accent is. But I do really like this song, the groove that they set with it, and how it segues perfectly into the funeral. The image of setting a funeral on fire is very dark, and that is the darkness of the album. It is a... So, like, part of my problem with environmental songs is they're just so, it's such impotent rage, because, like, what are you doing? Like, you're killing the earth, So I like this because it at least shows the anger that we should be feeling towards ourselves and towards our cultures that have done this to ourselves. So the image of the funeral being set on fire by a candle is quite nice because we associate candles with a funeral, with remembrance. We think of, candlelight vigils. And then it ends with the song The Funeral, which is just a great groove. It's a little bit of that not fade away rhythm, but much faster. All these like pull-off licks on the guitar, and the real sadness of the album comes through with just the word funeral being said over and over again. Looking at the album on the whole, lyrically, it's pretty clear that like there was a dripping tap, and then we drowned, and then the Grim Reaper came to get us, and we couldn't be saved by the men in the suits. And so then we died in the red smoke, and the predator killed us, and then we were at the funeral for ourselves, and the candle was lit up, and that was the end of all that. So it's good. So there's my review. Hey, 35 minutes. Turns out that's how long I had to talk about this album. I am interested in your theories or in your thoughts, King Gizzard fans, because I'm still new to the band, right? I don't know how many albums they have, but this is only my 4th one. I did want to give a shout out for all my non-weekend videos. I asked my Patreons if they would like a shout out. So Ernie Mac is a big fan of King Gizzard. So he gets a shout out. All right. So yeah, tell me where this album fits in with their context to their oeuvre and other thoughts that you may have. All right, until next time, there's the camera.